Are you feeling down? Are you feeling ugly? Are you feeling, well, useless? Well, the purpose of this video was to actually convince everyone that there is a big sense of uselessness in this world. And, well, if people feel useless, well, in a way that is technically a truth. I am not trying to depress people even more. I'm just telling them that they should realize one thing. They should realize that this sense of uselessness comes from the great truth. You're not here to change the world. See, the point is, when people create meaning, the point is that meaning, if you focus too much on it, it may become more than what you are. So people will impulsively serve that meaning, considering it is a life purpose, or something like that. The problem with many people is they're not trained to do so. They finally found the life purpose, but when they find the very first, steps of resistance taken against them, they simply break, and they call themselves useless. Because when you want to do something for yourself, there will always be thousands of people to simply pull you down, because they want to see you suffer just like them. Call these people tests, whatever you want, tests of fate or whatever you want. The point is, this is how so many people are. This is the most they can do, so, well, why should we even, bother classifying them or judging them? Judgment is nothing else but a tool of the mind. It has its uses, but ultimately, one simply needs to realize that there is life beyond judgment, and judgment means using your own opinions. And our opinions are taken from the outside, so why even call them ours, right? We have to learn how to use words, and all that knowledge comes from outside sources. Then, based on those outside sources, right, we create our own opinions. So the point is very simple. When we get our opinions, we kind of, well, call them wrongly, right? They're not ours. So when people feel useless, see, uselessness is another type of meaning. You're feeling useless because you want to serve a certain purpose. The question is, how do you want to serve that purpose? Do you truly want to serve that purpose as a means of other people's betterment, or as a means of, being subservient to your ego and doing things impulsively, right? Because usually there's at least a bit of each of these sides in everything that many people want to do. Especially if they're starting fresh and they've woken up from a life of slavery in front of their parents, schooling systems, the job system, and they finally want to do something good in life, but there will always be that impulse. I must, I must, I must. When you say I must, that's always an impulse. So when it comes to feeling useless, well, ask yourself one thing. Do you think the universe needs you to exist? Well, obviously not. Do you think, well, you need the universe to exist? Well, this universe is a physical universe. You that you truly are beyond physicality, right? You only use a piece of this universe, a small piece of a planet, which is a small piece of this universe, in order to experience life here. So, in a very small way, you kind of don't need this universe, right? I mean, obviously you need it to experience this life, but if this universe wouldn't exist, most likely you'll experience life somewhere else. So this universe is not necessarily, let's not call it useless either, but let's not call it, the most important. Right now it is the most important for you to experience life in here. But most likely there are other universes, and if this one wasn't, well, most likely there would have been another one. And if there wasn't any, most likely you would have existed there, one with creation, outside of, physicality and, the cycle of rebirth. So technically, anything that you would take can more or less be called useless in a way. For example, society is a meaning that we have created. Do you think society is useless? Well, it is not in a way, because its purpose is to simply organize people. But when it comes to ignorance, everything that is created out of ignorance is technically useless, because it may feel perfect on paper. But when it comes to leaving something perfect to be taken into account by superficial people, that's always going to end up as useless, because it's only going to serve a few people and their interests, and never, the rest. So, do you think you need God to exist? Well, technically, your body was made to function physically, right? It has its own physiology and, well, its own needs, and as long as you tend to the needs, you don't need any deity to exist, obviously, because those deities are far out there, wherever they would be, and usually you'll find them in the imagination of people. But considering that, okay, some deities may actually exist, well, one way or another, the point is, you don't necessarily need those. I mean, even if creation allowed this whole universe to exist, that is basically what you would need, right, to take into account. Be respectful because, well, without the process of creation, none of this would exist, and obviously not even us would exist. But as far as you're concerned, individually speaking, you don't need anyone else to live, right? Only narcissistic parents will tell you that they rose you, they, own you. Because what they did was tend to your physical needs. They provided some shelter and they provided some food. That's basically the least you should do as a parent to any of your children. So definitely you want a child. Well, that's technically the least you should do as a parent. And that needs to be done without, having any expectations. Because the more expectations you'll have, obviously you'll make your child feel useless and, well, you'll have them become your enemies in time. Because when you don't, provide the emotional need for people, well, that kind of becomes a problem. Because you'll slowly be turning those people into enemies. And sooner or later, if those people decide they will leave, if they are, bound to experience even more abuse from you, they will stay. But if they are bound to do certain things beyond suffering, they will simply leave you. Most likely they won't even speak to you again. Obviously you'll continue to lament, but, well, that has no importance. And, well, you see, the point is, many people just feel useless because they can't serve their purpose. The point is, no one came here to experience life in a perfect way. The perfect life, you will find it most likely online, in video games, and not even those are perfect, and, well, most likely you'll find it in the graveyard, and most likely you will find it at the psychiatry. Most likely at the psychiatry. See, there's a quote that says that in the graveyard, when you're in the grave, or beyond the grave, nothing bad can happen. Well, that's still true, but, well, things can still happen beyond the grave, but, well, to your physical body, nothing bad can happen. I mean, emotionally, it is invulnerable to anything that may happen. See, you can beat a dead body, you can beat them, you can do literally everything. You can see how calm they are. There is literally no more importance towards everything that happens around because, well, that body, just like any other physicality, it has its own functionality and it has its own time. Everything that is physical has its own time. So it was designed to work for a lifetime. When that time is up, well, that is game over. So nothing else matters to that physical body. That which you truly are will simply venture afterwards. It will know its own path, it will use its own unconsciousness and, its own impulses, and it will be guided. Sooner or later, it will find a way into a new body until it, becomes capable enough of ending the cycles of life and death. So when you feel down, the point is, you can feel down for thousands of reasons. You can feel down because several lifetimes ago you had some great disappointments, and such disappointments most likely have gone through thousands of your previous lifetimes, and all the karmic structure feels like it wants to dissipate sooner or later. So you will simply relive certain aspects or at least certain emotions in a certain way that will allow you to, relinquish them. But obviously in a sick society you're taught to vice versa. You're taught that everything about you is shameful, everything about you is bad because how else can you be disempowered? And when you are disempowered constantly, you feel powerless. When you feel powerless, you feel useless, right? And that is how the circle continues. When you feel powerless, you disempower yourself even more, and then that means that you give more power to the others. Because narcissistic people always want to be in control, and they want to be the ones that everyone else calls. Because ultimately they're broken, and whatever they want is just some piece of attention. And this society stinks of sociopathy, narcissism, and many others, right? Many other such disturbances of the mind, because as I've realized through my own introspection, almost all, if not all, the problems in this world stem from lack of attention. When you don't give people the attention that they need, so many ways they can break within the mind. But one has to understand that the brain, the physical mind, let's call it so, is, the most awkward aspect, okay? The problem with feeling useless is the first impulse of any physical body is to conduct self-destruction. Many people, when they feel useless, they want to end their life. That is the first impulse, and people have to understand this. This is not something bad, this is not something anti-religious, it is a perfect mechanic of the physical body. But obviously, when you're kept in lack of knowledge, and then you're said that if you think about, suicide, even if you think about suicide, it's a sin towards our so-called God and Savior, the Big Brother, or, well, people call it God, but obviously it's Big Brother, because how can it not be? When you live for thousands of years, or, well, in Europe it's been 1,000 of years, but in the whole world there have been many other monotheist religions, and their only purpose is to control you through fear of a deity that is all-seeing and all-knowledgeable, right? It's exactly the vision of the system that, people have when they want to rule a sick society. They want ultimate control. And ultimate control means that they are all-seeing and all-knowledgeable about everyone and everything. So the point is, it's just you getting used to a system in which it's no longer an illusionary deity that knows and sees everything. Now it's your own kin that knows and sees everything. Everything is done in time because, high-level manipulation needs even hundreds of years, right, of lowering people's awareness and, lowering their expectations of life so that you can, or, well, the ones that come after you will sooner or later get the control that they seek. This is how a sick society functions. And this is the sickness of people, which obviously stems from lack of, importance, lack of, realization of things in life. You don't get touched enough by life, so you feel that everything is superficial. When you are superficial, only misery will accompany you. So when it comes to such things, well, there was one aspect that I wanted to say, and, well, I took a detour. So, in life, sickness will always resolve around misery and lack, right? Because how can things be otherwise? Misery loves company, they say. So, we are all humans, right? And ultimately, whatever we achieve in life, it is our own choice. It is not the choice of other people. Obviously, we can take some advice, but ultimately what we do is only our choice. We can be forced to do something else, but it is still ultimately our choice. So feeling useless is, again, something that's, will always occur, because when you feel useless, it's an aspect of disempowerment. And children, they are the easiest to disempower, because what your parents tell you, you will simply follow that. If your mother tells you that you're useless and you simply embrace that for once, it will be so extremely hard to simply remove that from your life. Because how your parents see you is the most important thing. Because if they don't see you well, you're gonna end up disappointed. So when it comes to numerous lifetimes of having gone through this, obviously all this karma needs to simply go in time. It needs to simply perish. And through its perishing, you become more and more free. But obviously a sick society doesn't want you to be free. But, well, let's actually call this an end. And, the point about life is, every time you feel depressed, you are technically in need of deep rest, right? So many things will keep surfacing in life, and obviously you can't control things in life because, well, that's how life is. There is always this aspect of unpredictability, because if you could predict everything, then what would the challenge be? And again, you'd end up feeling that life is superficial and there is nothing basically to have. So all this being said, you are appreciated. Hopefully this video was introspective enough. You are appreciated. Take care. Ferenc on board signing out.